Welcome to the channel Brad Takes Flight, where we're taking aviation dreams and turning them into reality. This week's episode is all about mastering instruments, not just learning them. There is a big difference. So whether you're flying through the clouds or trying to fly passengers at night, this is a critical skill to your success at becoming a professional pilot, as well as safety. If you're new to the channel, I'm Brad at Blue Line Aviation in Smithfield, North Carolina, where I am learning at Johnston County Airport, and I have already got my PPL working on my instrument now. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell so that way you'll get a notification anytime that I drop a new video. Let's get to it. And if you're a longtime viewer and a passionate enthusiast and want to get into the cockpit with me, there's one great way that you can do that. Go over to my Patreon page, the link is down below, and subscribe there. All of the funds that I gather through Patreon are going to be used to help me get the audio and visual equipment that I need to bring you into the cockpit with me for every single flight. You'll also get additional benefits like early access to videos, exclusive content, live Q&As, and merch that you won't be able to get anywhere else. So with all the business out of the way, let's get to the week. This is a really critical week. I've got 6 flights scheduled, and I think 3 grounds, 2 or 3 grounds. Hopefully I'll sneak another group ground in there if I'm able to. Instrument flying is all about precision, where when you were getting your pilot's license, you had some windows and you could kind of figure things out on your own and have your own style to it. And there may be a little bit of that in instrument, but not nearly as much. With the avionics systems that we have, we really focus on 4 types of approaches. So an ILS, which is the only precision approach that we do, along with a localizer, which doesn't have any vertical guidance associated with it, but it's still ground-based, as well as LPV, which gives you both vertical and horizontal guidance, and LNAV, which only gives you horizontal guidance. So those are the 4 main approaches that we work at here at Blue Line. However, there are a lot more than that, and it all depends on the equipment that you have in your airplane. So just be aware of that as we go through this week. Today we've got a little bit of overcast, it's a little bit rainy, so that means it is a perfect day for instrument flying. Actually, I know that seems kind of weird if you haven't studied weather, but really kind of the worse the weather is as far as just your visibility and just kind of a steady precipitation usually means that you're going to run into smoother air, and smooth air makes for great flying. Today I've got 1 ground lesson and I have 1 flight on the books. I am getting into Blue Line just a little bit early because I am coming off of the weekend and want to recap, make sure that I've got everything back down, and I'm really ready to jump in feet first. We don't have to spend a lot of time recapping. The time that you get with your instructors is incredibly valuable. Do not waste that and come in needing 30 minutes worth of recap when you could have spent 30 minutes studying that stuff on your own. You already have all the information before. Be smart, spend that time beforehand to be as prepared as you can be to maximize that time with your instructor. Have some questions ready. If you didn't understand what you were studying or what you should have been looking at, take that time to go over all those materials and kind of get squared away. I'm also going to take a little bit of time to review my syllabus to make sure that I'm really squared away on what I have to do on my flight as well. It's really critical to understand and ask any of those questions as you're getting into that flight. The one thing that I love about being a part of the 141 school is they have to have a syllabus already, and that is FAA approved. So you already know coming in exactly what you're doing. If you're at a 61, it's not necessarily that maybe the instructor is flying around by the seat of their pants, but you may not have that pre-written script for you to kind of know, and so you may have to message them beforehand and kind of get an idea of what that's going to look like. Now that we've got the plan together, let's go ahead and get to Blue Line. All wrapped up on the day, was able to get in my ground lesson and got most of that completed, about halfway done. So we got to go through a few different topics today as we did kind of a very small mock oral, not a full-blown kind of mock oral, but went through things like GPS and different pedostatic systems and AHRs and ADS and all that kind of stuff, different failures, emergency situations, that kind of stuff. Then we went up and flew. I got in 6 approaches today. We were going to fly out towards Raleigh a little bit, but there was a storm cell that just wouldn't go away, so we ended up staying local. And I shot the ILS 6 times, and 1 time we did a circle to land as the winds were coming in best for a landing on 2-1 instead of 3, which is where we have our 1 ILS approach. I think things went better and better as I continued to kind of go along and getting a little bit more comfortable talking through comms and just working plates and all that kind of stuff. Good news, bad news. Bad news for somebody else. It looks like their stuff has been pushed back a couple of days, but the good news for me is I may get in a few more flights now, and maybe I could wrap up a little bit closer towards the end of the week and have my check ride ready for early next week. Looks like I'll be able to do 1 local flight where we will work on holds tomorrow, do a ground lesson, continuing to work on things like pilot qualifications and then cross-country planning, and then do my first IFR cross-country flight to Greensboro and Burlington and then back to Johnston again. So looks like an exciting day tomorrow. Ready to go ahead, study up, get everything planned out, so hopefully everything runs nice and smooth tomorrow. See you then. Tuesday morning on the way into Blue Line. I have 2 flights today, one at 8 a.m. and the other at 1 o'clock. The first one's going to be over hold patterns, so we'll do all 3 types of holds. So just your standard entry into a hold or a direct entry. We'll also do parallel and teardrop. All of those just depend on the direction that you're entering the hold from. And I have my first IFR cross-country flight. We'll go to Greensboro, then Burlington, and back to Johnston again. Really look forward to that flight. Be interested to see. I think we're going to use VORs as we track our way over there and back. VORs in IFR are very interesting to me. VORs are a ground-based navigational system that uses radio waves. And honestly, with GPS and the next-gen movement that the FAA is under, we've seen a lot of VORs being phased out. However, the ones that are being kept in are being upgraded to reach even greater lengths at this point. It used to be about 40 nautical miles. Now, if they're under the MON, they actually go 70 miles. Kind of interesting. And if you look at an IFR low chart and you see these little squiggly lines going through it, that means that that's a VOR that's probably being phased out and that Victor Airway is no longer going to be used. So I'm supposed to be using RDU's VOR to navigate out to Greensboro, but I don't think it's up. I don't know when the last time it's been up. And most of the time at this point, if you file an IFR and you're going out that way, they kind of divert you however they want you to. You can file whatever it is you want to file IFR, but ultimately it's ATC or, Washington Center or whatever approach is going to tell you what to fly. We'll file it with VORs. Maybe we'll be able to use some, but I have a sneaky suspicion that we will end up using GPS for this flight, but I'll let you know once I wrap it up. Wrapped up a big 2-flight day. Unfortunately, the second flight did not turn into a long cross country. Instead, it turned into a shorter cross country. Still got some cross country time. However, we stayed local and we did flight lesson 14, which is a mock check ride prep. Got most of that done. Did have to incomplete that, but did the holds. Did 4 holds, I think, in total on that one. That was really good. Lot of big aircraft floating around today. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Tomorrow, 6 a.m. bright and early. I will see you there. Lucky for you, you don't have to set your alarm clock to go on this ride with me, but we will make up the Greensboro, Burlington, Smithfield flight. Good Wednesday morning, aviators. I'm on my way into Blue Line. It is a little before 6:30. I have my flight at 7 o'clock. This is going to be a shorter cross-country flight. I actually have 3 cross-country flights scheduled. Today is supposed to be navigation by VORs, and then the next one will be using GPS as our primary means of navigation, and then I have a long cross-country which will probably be GPS. For the most part, newer planes are using GPS. Especially with the G1000 NXI that we have. It's super nice and can help us do a lot of different things. This flight is Greensboro, Burlington, back to Johnston County. Should jump on to the Victor 45 airway and head out to Greensboro, and then come back using direct radials to both Burlington and RDU. However, I have a feeling that once we file IFR and do all those things, that ATC will probably end up kicking us off of the VORs. We'll end up using GPS as our primary means of navigation, I would suspect. I'll definitely let you know what happens when we wrap things up. One cool approach that I will get to do today that I haven't had an opportunity to do is a VOR DME arc. So on that particular approach, there's an arc that's drawn and you keep a certain distance from the VOR as you hold an arc kind of around on your approach onto your final straight in approach into the airport. I haven't done one of those. Like I said, not many of those that are even around or available near me. So having an opportunity to do a new approach is always cool. And it looks like there is a chance to fly an actual IMC. It'd be really nice to get my instrument rating with actual instrument time and not just everything being totally simulated. I'll be sure to let you guys know when we wrap it all up. What an awesome flight. First flight of actual IFR time. Really, really cool. Hope you guys enjoyed. I know it was a little bumpy, but the time-lapse video of just coming in on that ILS approach into Greensboro on 2-3 left, really, really cool. Appreciate my instructor doing that. Really awesome day up there. Wasn't too thermally, even though there was, a little bit of cloud coverage. We were in and out pretty much the entire time. You can kind of see the different layers of clouds as we were coming through and going over RDU, seeing some of the big guys coming in and out of there was really awesome as well. So we did the ILS 2-3 into Greensboro. We did a VOR DME arc, like coming into Burlington, and we just went missed. So we did the RNAV, which is a GPS, an LPV approach into Johnston and wrapped things up. Really, really cool flight. So my flight tomorrow is going to be GPS based in the way that one is planned out. I don't have all of the airports laid out yet, but I know we're going to do an ILS, a localizer, and a GPS approach on those. Should be a really cool flight as well. Really excited about it. Haven't looked at the weather for tomorrow yet, but once I get everything planned and I wake up in the morning, I'll give you guys an update. Today's cross country is going to Concord, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte, and then to Asheboro and back to Johnston. We're using GPS today to be able to do our navigations to and from, and looks like we'll have a standard terminal arrival route that we will take into Concord, appropriately named NASCAR 4. If you know anything about the Charlotte or Concord area, that is the home of NASCAR, and Charlotte is the home of the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So all you NASCAR fans, aviation's paying attention to you guys as well. Along with the navigation by GPS, also doing a ILS approach, a localizer approach, and a GPS with vertical guidance, or for us, it's an LPV approach. I'm not 100% sure if I'll land at each one of these spots. I know we'll at least do the approaches. Once we get done with the flights today, I also have a ground lesson. The ground lesson today will cover up, I think, just the end of some of the things that I didn't do for the mock, some pilot qualifications, as well as review systems, and I think there may be some weather in there as well. Today's flight is forecasted to have some low ceilings. Hopefully I'll be able to get you some more footage while we are up there, and I can log some more actual IMC time. That is always really good for the logbook, as well as just practical experiences. See you guys in a bit. Good flight today, good ground today. Both of them had their own challenges. Instead of going to Concord and Asheboro today, we had to call an audible. There were some low IFR conditions that were out there, so we just weren't going to get cleared to go that way. So the alternate today was to go out to Elizabeth City and then into Greenville and then back to Johnston. From the in-flight, hopefully you were able to tell we got up into some IMC. We did a little bit of cloud surfing on the way back in. Instead of dealing with low IFR conditions, we ended up dealing with some really gusty conditions. Feel like my comms are getting really solid, and so is my navigation. Approaches are pretty good, I think. I still get a little confused sometimes when we're doing our step down approaches instead of our glide path, which is just kind of smooth. There's two different ways that you kind of terminate those. So on your glide path or a glide slope, you'll terminate it when you get to your minimum descent and you'll go miss. If you're doing step downs, you actually hold that altitude for a while at your minimum and you ride that all the way to the runway and then you go miss for the most part. So there's a few that may terminate a little bit differently, but for the most part, those terminate at the runway threshold, where the glide slopes or the glide paths, when you're coming down smoothly, those terminate when you get to the minimum altitude. Went through a bunch of symbology and cross-country planning in my ground today, which was really needed. Feel like I was pretty solid on things. Been reading enough plates now and looking at the templates where I'm feeling a bit better. The low IFR charts themselves, I could definitely use a little bit more work on. And then I feel like we just focus so much on the approaches. I really haven't paid enough attention to departure procedures and takeoffs, which there's not a lot to takeoffs, but you still need to know your takeoff minimums and you still need to be able to focus on the departures as well and what those procedures look like. Tomorrow is the long cross country for IFR. The schedule is to fly to Fayetteville. We won't even do an approach at Fayetteville, but we basically go from Johnston to Fayetteville down to Myrtle Beach, where we will do an approach. And I think we actually land there as well. And then we will go up to Duplin County and we'll go miss there on that approach. And then we will go into Kinston. Think that one is another one that we will actually land at. And then we come back to Johnston with RDU, I think, being my alternate. Getting those plans finalized tonight. There was some thunderstorms down in the Myrtle Beach, Wilmington area today. I'm really hoping that those all push off because there's not really an alternate plan like there was today. That flight's at 7 a.m. Then I've got another ground lesson, hopefully to finish up on some more of my pilot qualifications and weather. Make sure that that's all solid for my mock stuff that is coming up beginning of next week, and also have a cleanup. I have some unusual attitudes that I have to do, as well as I think there was one type of approach that we didn't do on another flight that I'm making up to complete that lesson. So I'm gonna wrap up my cross country planning and get a little bit of rest, and I will see you guys early in the AM for the long cross country flight. It is Friday morning. I'm on my way into Blue Line. Today is the long cross country. Today's flight is supposed to be to Fayetteville, then into Myrtle Beach, back up to Duplin County, over to Kinston, back to Johnston. Along with the long cross country, I also have a cleanup where we're doing unusual attitudes, as well as one more approach today. Depending on the weather predictions, maybe we flip them and we do the cleanup and the unusual attitudes in that one approach early, and then we kind of wait to see what happens with the weather down in that area, and maybe in the afternoon, that's when we do that flight. However, afternoon flights are always a bit more turbulent, so it'd be great to go ahead and get in a long trip that's about 300 miles. Go ahead and get that in now, and then just have the short one at the end, but I'll let you guys know here in a bit. The day definitely felt like June in North Carolina and even South Carolina as we got down to Myrtle Beach today. But you can't tell from my face, it is red. Like, it's awesome being in the 40s because you get this great view in these diamonds, right? Like unimpeded, just awesome. But the sun also has an unimpeded view as well. So I really need to make sure, start using a bit more sunscreen and take care of myself a little bit more in that way. However, the flight itself went really good. I got to fly with another instructor today who's our academy lead, and he is awesome. The good news, bad news with him is that he is a really great instructor, but he's about to leave. He just got accepted into SkyWest. However, I really did enjoy my flight with him. Felt like I picked up a few more nuggets that I haven't learned along the way that I think are going to be really beneficial to me going forward. So really glad that I had the opportunity to fly with him at least once, if it was just this one flight. Again, I feel like that's a really big advantage for Blue Line versus a local school, is that you have all these different instructors. You do have your primary, and so you've got that one person that you can always go to and is your lead. However, there's so many other instructors that they're all doing it the right way, but they're doing it their way. And to get those different perspectives is just, I think, invaluable as you're finding your own way and your own technique to becoming a great pilot. Tomorrow, I have one more flight before my mock check ride. That flight is going to be at 8 a.m. and then that's going to wrap up the week for me. See you in the morning. It is Saturday morning on my way into Blue Line. I have one flight today. Today's flight is like the mock check ride with my primary instructor. The next flight that I do will be a mock check ride with a different instructor. For me personally, I think this is an important part of the process, is not just kind of doing a mock with your instructor that you're normally with, but getting a fresh set of eyes. Just like the DPE, they're coming in with a fresh set of eyes. So you have your instructor who knows your strengths and your weaknesses, but having another instructor come in who doesn't know anything about your strengths and weaknesses and is just judging you on your current skill level, I think that's a really helpful piece. And as much as we all try and be perfect, especially when it comes to flying, because of the inherent risks that are associated with it, maybe your instructor forgot something, or maybe you're really comfortable with your instructor and so you fly one way with them. So to get you in a different environment and get somebody else's eyes on you before you do your actual check ride, super important. I'm not sure exactly how much footage I'll be able to get today, but I promise to pass along what I can when I can. I'll follow up with you soon. That's a wrap on this week. Really solid week. Got everything done that I wanted to get completed. I now just have my mock evaluation for my check ride as well as my actual check ride for next week. Today was able to do 6 different approaches, which was a good number. All of them were at Johnston. However, they were all a little bit different, and each one of them had some different things or scenarios that we kind of played out as far as whether we had vertical guidance or not, or if I had a PFD failure or not, or hand flying or autopilot. So they were all just kind of mixed up and a little bit different. Feel like those all went really well. Happy with my landings, happy with the way that I navigated and handled all my MDA. I feel like this was by far my best flight in instrument, which is perfectly timed and probably partially due to my experience, but also we got up in the morning. It's a lot easier to hold your speeds, and when you're not fighting the airplane, it allows you to think a little bit more clearly as you're going through your flows as well. So all those things really important and really helped out having good conditions today to get up in. What an awesome week. Really happy with the progress that I made. Kind of shocked, honestly, looking back at the amount of hours that I logged. However, it makes sense because I did a ton of cross country this week. Along with the ones that were scheduled, we also had one other cross country flight that we did. We needed to shoot a certain approach, and it just made sense to go to this airport that was still pretty close, but is still a cross country. Did a full stop taxi back for that, so got in one more flight to log some more cross country time this week. Another big deal this week is I was able to get in my private pilot certificate printed off this time. So all the hours that I did this week started counting towards my PIC. Well, as I got my first actual instrument time in, which is so cool to have that in the logbook, and really good experiences to have going forward. This week, I was able to log 19.5 hours of total time, 4.3 of actual instrument time, and then another 12 hours of simulated instrument time. I also was able to get in 11.2 of those cross-country hours, and I got another 32 actual instrument approaches in. That brings my total hours up to 77.8. I've got 25.3 hours of PIC time. My actual instrument hours are 4.3, and then 30.6 of simulated instrument time. I also have 18.2 of cross country, and that brings my total approaches, live approaches, up to 47 in total. It happens so fast in these accelerated programs, man. It is really blistering, and I can't believe that I'm almost at 80 hours, and that 30 hours of that is simulated instrument plus another 4. I mean, it's close to 35 hours. I mean, just looking at the math, that's nearly half of my hours are instrument time, which is way off of a normal curve, which as you're starting up and you're doing your instrument training, I guess is to be expected. But in the long term, knowing that it's usually like 10%, it just kind of throws it all off. And then seeing my dual hours are still more than my training hours. And the logbook is just kind of funny right now as you're looking at it, just from this, holistic, what you would think you would expect from somebody's logbook and what is actually happening in my logbook is, it's just interesting to me, right? How it's all playing out. Hope you guys are enjoying the content. Hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to click the bell so that way Thursday at 6, you'll get the reminder that the new video is being released. Also, make sure you hit that like button so that way more people will find this video. Leave me a comment. Let me know what else I could add to these videos to help you out. And if you'd like to see the actual flights and the calls, hear all these things, join me over at Patreon. Help me purchase the equipment that I need to be able to bring that to you for every single flight. You'll also get exclusive content, early access to videos, as well as live Q&As just for you guys, and merch that you won't be able to get anywhere else. Hope you guys are enjoying your adventures in the sky. Stay safe, and as always, keep the grass off your wingtips.